the layering of skills that it takes to try new things. I've heard other serial entrepreneurs kind of talk about it as, I did it here, so that gave me the confidence to do it here. And then I did this other new thing in a new sector, but it had elements of point B and point A, so I knew I could do it at point C. Does that resonate with you, and is that your experience?
1000%. I think that my life is a series of points of leverage, right? If I look at the start of my career, learning to be, getting on the phone and making 100 calls a day and taking that level of rejection, quite honestly, gave me a really thick skin. That thick skin just turns into resilience, right? Nothing touches you. And you start to learn that nothing is personal. Nothing's about you. You don't take things personally. That enables you to walk into rooms, to try to raise money and to get turned down over and over and over again, but not start to have any disbelief in your idea. You're like, it's not about me. It's just, I'm in the wrong room. I'm in the wrong situation. This is not the right partner. So I feel like I have a couple of things that just happened early in my career. And then you start to think about the skills and the reputational value of the things that you've done. I spent a long time at this intersection of fashion, brands, and entertainment. And ultimately what I've done is gone on to build brands where talent is at the forefront of those brands. And so learning that language, understanding how talent can be used to accelerate the path of a brand was a really huge part of my learning. But then also having a background in product meant that I knew that that alone would never be enough, that you have to create best-in-class product coupled with best-in-class consumer experience. And all of those things were, what I learned from all of the brands that I was servicing throughout my years running the agency. And so I've just taken everything I've learned and leveraged it into the next thing. And again, I think about the leverage as not just the individual situations, but it's your relationships and it's your reputation. You do really well in one thing, you can carry that into the next thing. When I went to raise money for the first time, I didn't know any funds. I didn't know any VCs. I went to a client who I had consistently delivered work to for years and years and years, and he gave me the money. So, it's like those things really come back and work for you in ways that you can't imagine when you're just an agent delivering great work.
That's a healthy way to think about reputation, because sometimes it can be paralyzing on the other side of the coin. You have a good reputation, you have good relationships, and then the thought can creep in, well, what if this isn't as good? Or what if this is the thing that ruins my reputation? Did those doubts ever creep in?
No, and I don't usually have that. I think that this idea about, imposter syndrome, it's something that we talk about only with women for some idea. Like, I never hear anyone be like, did you have imposter syndrome to a guy? It's like, why? Why would I? I was really raised to have an enormous amount of self-belief. But again, I don't think take things personally when they don't work out for me, because I don't think it's about me. I think it's about that set of circumstances and that thing at that time. It's like, you win some, you lose some. You move on.
What were the circumstances and the time that led to your new podcast?
Well, it's so interesting because I've spent my entire career building businesses. And I was thinking a lot about this idea of scaling mentorship. Everywhere that I go, if I'm in a panel talk or I'm just walking down the street, people will ask me, how do I start a business? How do I get a pay rise? How do I become a better negotiator? How do you raise money for your first startup? And, I try to answer a lot of DMs. I will jump on the phone to people when I can. But this idea of scaling mentorship, I just thought podcasts could be so interesting. And then when I started to look into, the podcast landscape, because I love listening to so many shows, it feels like a space that is so incredibly wide and yet so narrow from a viewpoint. It's very, very male dominated. And once you get into the business sector, it's even more male dominated. And I thought that there was probably a space for a voice that spoke as much about their successes as you would your failures. And I think that that's the important part of what I've done. It's like I've had a lot of things that have worked, but I've also had a lot of things that haven't worked. And in that, I've met so many people and been very fortunate to surround myself with great people. And as I started calling them, so many of the women I called had never been on a podcast. And I was like, well, that's strange. Like, how have you never been asked? So I just think that there are stories to be told. And I really want to get deep. I really want to take some of the complexity out of these ideas, because I think at the heart of everything, there's just like really simple stuff here that if we unwrap it a little bit, you know, more people would understand.